Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this World of Warcraft add-on spotlight. In this video we're going to be taking a look at an add-on called Raidboss. As always, a download link for this add-on can be found in the video description below. First of all, we're just going to take a quick look at the configuration for this add-on, and as always, in order to access the configuration for this, you just press escape, go to interface, and then add-ons. Now on the screen you can currently see a load of little headings, I guess you could call them, at the side of my screen. So you've got tank heal, tank cooldowns, raid heal, combat reses, active cooldowns, and raid mana cooldowns. Now these probably mean, well, they probably mean something, but if you don't know what the add-on is, then they probably mean nothing. So in the configuration here, the first set of things we have to look at are the locking the frame. So at the minute you can freely move around the tank cooldowns, tank heal cooldowns, raid mana cooldowns, combat reses, active cooldowns, and all of that happily. But if you're to lock it, you just can't move it. Simple as, really. And you can always hide those if you don't want them to be shown, the headings that is. And then it'll just show you the abilities that are there and the cooldowns on them. Now, you can also show unavailable cooldowns only. So for example, at the side you can see my Tranquility and Rebirth are both there because they're not on cooldown at the minute. However, if I click this, then they disappear because they're not on cooldown, and if I'm to use it, it'll go on cooldown, and you can now see that it's popped up under raid heal cooldowns, and my Tranquility is not available for another 2 minutes and 50 seconds. Now, the next bit is the spell group visibility, and this is basically the 5 tabs that you can see on the screen. So, for example, you may be a healer. You may not care about the cooldowns for the tank healer cooldowns, so you can always just disable that by doing that. However, you want to see tank cooldowns because you need to know when they're available to use them, and you also want to see your active cooldowns so you can know what people are using and when. It's kind of something you'll have to mix and match yourself, but in retrospect, all that these are for is just enabling which spell groups you want to be shown. Now, the next bit here is all of the classes' abilities that can be shown on this add-on, and we've got the Paladin, Shaman, Druid, Hunter, Warlock, Rogue, Mage, Priest, Warrior, and Death Knight abilities. However, some classes such as the Rogue, the Mage, and the Hunter, they don't really have any abilities that are worth announcing, so they won't show up. This is just basically showing you, well, you saying what you want to have shown on your add-on. So for example, if you don't care about the Death Knight's Bone Shield, you just click on that, and then that won't be shown at all on any of the little frames. And then if we go down a bit more, we have to the left of the class configuration, you can toggle which group's abilities you want to have shown. So for example, this might be useful on a fight such as Morchok when it first came out, and if you did the 10-man mode one, there was a tactic where you could have 2 healers in each group because the boss splits in half. So for example, you could not want to see group 2's abilities because you're in group 1. That's the only kind of reasoning I could see behind wanting to see certain groups' abilities and not see certain groups' abilities, because it might just be a quality of life thing more than anything. So for example, a Druid who is on the other side of Wormrest Temple will not be able to Tranquility people that are on the other side, or something along those lines. Next is just well, it's choosing when you want the add-on to be shown. So for example, if you enter 25-man Raid Finder, then you can choose if you want it to be shown or not. If you're just solo, you can choose whether you want it to be on or not. It kind of gets in the way, I guess, if you're solo and you don't really need to know about your own cooldowns, as you can see them on your bars anyway. So I'd recommend just disabling solo, and then you just select which groups affect you. So if you're a 10-man guild, you'll obviously want it to enable when you're in 10-man heroic and 10-man normal, and possibly 25 Raid Finder as well. There's also options for PvP such as 10, 15 and 40-man, and I'm sure that covers your rated battlegrounds and your standard battlegrounds. And the final bit is just your standard run-of-the-mill configuration. It's just changing your bar length, of how big you want the bars to be. This is just personal preference, really. I mean, I prefer it if they take up less room, really, just as long as you're still able to read them. And then we've just got the fonts. Have them as big and small as you want. And then we just have the colours of the fonts. Nothing special, really. And that is it for the configuration section of this add-on. So now we're just going to take a quick look at what the add-on actually does. So I've shown you all of the configuration, and as you can see there is a lot of cooldowns on my screen at the minute. If you look to the left, your screen does not have to look like that. You can just set it to be whatever you want it to be, as I spoke about in the configuration section. So at the minute you can see that a few abilities have red countdown timers on them, and this is telling you that that ability is on cooldown, and it's also telling you when it will be off cooldown. Now under the active cooldowns heading you can see bars just pop up throughout this encounter. I'm not going to show you the full one because it's only a raid finder kill and it'll be very boring to watch. But from time to time under active cooldowns you'll see things pop up, such as Ardent Defender for a Paladin cooldown, and this is really useful for your healers to know when your tanks are actually using cooldowns. The add-on itself is very useful, however it can clutter your screen quite a bit, so you're definitely going to have to configure it to be minimalistic but still useful at the same time. So throughout this encounter, like I've said, you'll see paladins under the tank heal cooldowns using their lay on hands abilities, and also under the raid heal cooldowns you'll see warriors and other classes using stuff like rallying cries, or the druids using tranquilities. And that about summarizes it for this add-on. It's a really good add-on. It's amazing. It does everything and extra that a healer or a raid leader would want it to do. However, sadly this is looking for raids, so people don't really know how their spells work, so you can't really see it used. Oh, well, sorry, apart from the combat reses, you will see those go on cooldown quite a bit. But yeah, other than that, that's it for this add-on. It's brilliant. There you can see again under the active cooldowns, 3 of them just got used. It's brilliant. You should all download it. Even if you only do Raid Finder, just get it because it's amazing. As always, thank you for watching, and if you've enjoyed this World of Warcraft add-on spotlight, then please do feel free to subscribe to the channel for future add-on spotlights.